Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order right now at 10 o'clock on February 19th, 2025. So it's the clerk of the board, could please take roll call.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the board. City of Flagstaff, Lori Matthews. Here. Thank you. Coconino County, Geronimo Vasquez.
Here.
Thank you. City of hold it over there. The City of Flagstaff, Miranda Sweet here. Thank you. NAU, Josh Mayer.
Present.
Thank you. And we also have our alternate here, Jeff McKay. And CCC Kurtstall is expected approximately 10:30 a.m. We have our attorney on the line, Scott Holcomb.
Good morning.
Good morning, Scott. And we have a guest, council member Spence here. Hello. Hello. And we have members of staff here in the room and on Zoom. I'll turn it back to you, Chairman. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, next up is item number 3, our safety minute. And if I could call Sam Short, provide us that safety minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. February is American Heart Month, which is time to spotlight cardiovascular disease, which is the leading cause of death in America. Our heart is the most vital organ in our body, and it's the engine that powers our life. Without a healthy heart, we cannot live a long, full, active life. Therefore, it is crucial to pay attention to your heart health now. Please use the following steps to have a healthier heart. Avoid excessive salt, sugar, and processed foods. Stay active. Regular exercise such as walking, jogging, or swimming helps strengthen your heart and improve circulation. Manage stress. Practice relaxation techniques like breathing, meditation, or yoga to keep stress levels in check. Avoid tobacco use as it increases the risk of heart disease by harming blood vessels. Keep track of your blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar levels. Consult your doctor regularly for preventive care. Get enough sleep. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep to support overall health, including heart function. And stay hydrated. Drinking water helps keep your blood flowing and maintains a healthy circulation. Taking care of your heart isn't just about avoiding illness. It's about improving your quality of life, boosting energy, and protecting your overall well-being. Whether you're young or old, it's never too early or too late to start caring for your heart. Thank you and welcome to the February board meeting.
All right, thank you. All right, next up, we have Jackie Owners to provide the milestone anniversaries.
Thank you. Heather normally sits here and does this, right? She doesn't go up. Trying to make sure I'm being consistent. Okay, so we have a couple of milestone anniversaries, all 1-year anniversaries that we're celebrating in February. First up is Lorena Reyes. She's our associate transit planner. She'd actually normally be here, but she is down in Tucson with Heather and a couple of our other team members attending the Southwest Transit Association conference. Lorena is instrumental in a lot of our mobility management activities, service planning, working with our wheelchair accessible vehicle group, and has really stepped up in the, as you know, Estella Hollander left a couple of months ago, who was our planning manager. So Lorena has really been stepping up to help out in a lot of those activities as well. And then Serena Boynton in the middle, who you all probably saw on your way in. She's our customer service and accounting specialist and is just so phenomenal at handling all the duties at the front desk and taking all the phone calls for our paratransit clients trying to book rides. But also Serena is an extremely talented graphic designer and helps us out on that side. So if you happen to see any of our fun Valentine's Day posts on social media, those were created by Serena. She does a wonderful job with being a creative influence on our team. And then last but not least is Violet Hurley, who's on our operations team. And she started in our training program and has really been dedicated to paratransit. So she's a caring, she approaches that job with care, and our clients on the paratransit side really love having her. And she's one of our cross-trained team members, so she can drive both the paratransit and our fixed route buses. So congratulations to all of those team members on reaching their 1-year milestone.
All right. Any other?
That is it.
That is it. All right, thank you. Congratulations, everyone. All right, next up is call to the public. The public is invited to speak on any item or any area of concern that is the jurisdiction of the Mountain Lion Board. Comments relating to items on the agenda will be taken at the time the item is discussed. The board is prohibited by open meeting law from discussing, considering, or acting on items raised during the call to the public, but may direct the staff to place an item on a future agenda. Individuals are limited to a 3-minute presentation. A spokesperson for 10 or more people present at today's meeting may be given up to 6 minutes to speak. The board will not recognize anonymous comments. Are there any members of the public present that wish to speak? Or are there any written comments received via email for the board?
No written comments were received. We do have one guest, Councilmember Spence, but he said he was just here to observe, so.
I don't have any comments, I'm just here to learn.
Okay, no, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
We'll wait 1 minute, just see if anybody emerges online. Sounds like no call to the public. In that case, we'll move on to approval of minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes that are recommended? Does anybody have anything they'd like to change? If none, then can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes dated January 15th, 2025.
And January 16th, 2025.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by member Sweet and a second by member Matthews. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, none opposed. We'll move on to the next item. Thank you. Next up is our consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that members would like to pull? No? Okay, in that case, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda number 7, 8, and 9.
Okay, we have a motion by member Matthews. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second by member Sweet. Is there any discussion? Okay, in that case, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All those opposed? Okay, and there were no items pulled, correct? We're good? All right. Next up, I'm gonna call on Ms. Jackie Learners to present the item on August 25th service changes.
Thank you very much, Chair and members of the board. I appreciate your time this morning. I am here to talk about a very exciting topic, service changes. This is something that we have not had the opportunity to do in quite some time. We have not added much service in the last several years. And so as a result of the passing of Prop 488, there are several service changes that we are able to implement right away. We'll say that the new tax starts collecting on July 1st. Some of these we don't need Prop 488 to implement a couple of these service changes, but some of them we do. And we will actually be coming back to you in the next couple of months with a more detailed plan on the next 3 to 5 years with what we have proposed for Proposition 488 to roll out the service changes that were discussed with the public. So I'll highlight in my presentation today those ones that are made possible through the passing of Prop 488. So the first one we have, so one thing to note, so we are asking you today to open a public comment period, because a couple of these service changes, per our Title VI policy require that we have a public comment period. The Title VI policy requires that if we are changing service by more than 25% in a certain area, that we must go through several steps to notify the public and give the public the opportunity to give us feedback. So at this point, these are all proposed service changes. Until we close that public comment period. It will actually be open for a period of nearly 2 months because it has to be open for 30 days. And because February is a short month, your next board meeting is like 28 or 29 days away from the start of the public comment period today, should you vote to open it. And so we'll actually leave it open until the April meeting, which is fine. It gives us more time to collect feedback, which is completely fine. So not all of the service changes I'm showing you today necessitate that Title VI public comment period, but we are we're just packaging them all together for the public to review and provide commentary on. So this first one is probably it's one of the smallest ones, but it's the most complex one. So Route 2, which is the route that goes from downtown up by the hospital over Cedar Forest, all of that goes right by our office and out to the mall. For several years in the morning and the afternoon, it does this deviation originally it was to serve Basis School. Basis was really the only thing up there on the Mesa at that point. And so because of the nature of that, the road network up on the Mesa, you cannot make a left turn at the lower end of that deviation. So where it's called Pine Cliff, I believe, you can only make a left turn at Gemini, which is a light. So it's not super efficient for the buses heading back towards downtown. They have to kind of double back on themselves and get back up to that light. A couple times a day to serve the school, it's fine. But as you know, the development patterns up on the Mesa have changed. There is going to be another school adjacent to Basis starting in the fall. Flagstaff Junior Academy will be up there. There is now a veterans home up there. There is now senior housing and all sorts of different uses up there. So ideally, we would permanently serve this area, but it's difficult to permanently serve it in both directions without being able to make a left-hand turn from Pine Cliff onto Forest. We can make up that time when we only do it a couple times a day. We cannot make it up when we do it every single round of the day. So what we are proposing in August is a permanent westbound deviation. So we would eliminate the eastbound one. We would permanently go and serve that area. Sorry, I just said that backwards, I think. This is where I get lost. It's going to be a permanent eastbound deviation so that we can go out on Gemini and make that right and keep going towards the mall. We would not deviate at all as we're heading back towards the Downtown Connection Center westbound. Pardon my confusion there.
Can you clarify that?
Yes. So I wish, for those who are at the Alliance meeting, I really wish I had that fancy pointer right now. We are, but I do not have it yet, unfortunately. We don't have only Scott's on the line, right? Like Kurt's not here yet?
Not yet.
Okay, I'm gonna point then. Okay, so we will, as the buses are heading towards towards the mall, they're gonna come in, they're gonna do this loop, they'll stop right by Basis School and come back out and continue going towards the mall. The buses that are coming from the mall towards downtown will just stay on this regular route. They will not come down here at all because they have to come down and loop back up here to make the left onto Forest. So these stops are all, the existing stops on Route 2 are walkable for not everyone, obviously. For an able-bodied person, the existing stops on Route 2 are walkable. Ideally, once again, we are permanently serving this area. So we are starting a study right now with MetroPlan and the city of Flagstaff to look at creative solutions to making a left-hand turn off of the Mesa. So we're doing a feasibility study to see if there are ways that maybe there's a transit only left turn, maybe there's a slip lane, something along those lines. So I think all the contracts are being signed right now on that. So we are going to study that. Yes, Chair.
Is there any reason why there's the road just by Basis that comes out that you'd have to take to Turquoise? Is there a reason why a route couldn't go that way and then reconnect on Turquoise? So where the 6A, where Basis School is, the road comes, I guess, south, and then you would turn to the right and then hit 6 and then turn that way?
I don't know we would have to look at that from a service planning standpoint. That would probably be just as inefficient and not serving any the people. So
Yeah.
I mean, this is one of our highest ridership routes, the way that it is right now. So this is kind of the interim solution until we can do that, until we finish that feasibility study to hopefully figure out a way to better serve this area because we know it does need to be served. So that was honestly a very long explanation of a fairly small service change that we are proposing. Does anybody have any questions on that one? And the other thing I should mention is we've struggled with the start times for school, for basis. They change them quite often. And public transit doesn't do well with, changing schedules. We print our schedules and they have to be consistent. So sometimes our times don't align with their start and end times.
Jackie, I have a question and maybe I'll ask a question and then we can put it on the agenda. Cause I've had a growing question or a gap in understanding why, like, we're catering to all the schools, like, and we're not getting anything back for it except for NAU, of course. And I'm glad to provide the service, but, they're saving a lot of money by not having their own private bus service.
We can certainly put that on a future agenda. I think typically charter schools do not have bus service. That is kind of one of the, they don't have lunch usually, and they don't have school, and they don't have, free lunch, and they don't have bus services generally what they do. I think our argument would be that we are trying to keep traffic off of the road by providing a service that, gives students an alternative. I would also say that the 2 deviations we do, honestly, probably need to be permanent service, as that is where, we've seen, this is where the development has gone in this area, and then on 4th Street as well, we do the deviation near MPA, but that's really with all the development happening. So I think as we look at, we are also hopefully getting some funding to do an operational assessment, and it will look at how we can, if those areas should be permanently served. So it's not about the school at that point, it's about everybody who lives in that area.
That makes sense. I was just curious, it's like, I think that it's a smart idea to service them to get cars off the street, but at the same time, we do need to bring in revenue. And if the school is saving money by just, we don't have, when we started doing the routes for the high schools and stuff, it's like they're saving a lot of money, maybe they should be giving us some money.
And FUSD does give us money, to be
Okay.
fair. They pay for the EcoPass program. And we did not alter any routes for FUSD, but that we have all of our same routing that we did before we entered into a partnership with FUSD. And FUSD does pay us for the
Okay.
EcoPass program.
Thank you.
With the development up there, including the Veterans Hospital or the Veterans Home and the healthcare clinics, is there a plan or a thought of possibly, if that route's gonna be permanent, putting a bus stop closer to those medical facilities or the VA? Just because
Yes,
the stops where they are right now are kind of far for someone that has to go to a doctor's appointment.
absolutely, yes. We would look at adding stops in the future. This is a really good example of planning ahead for transit, as this is not a super transit friendly area. So it's a really great example of the importance of planning, when you're planning a road network, of thinking of transit at the beginning as opposed to after it's already built. All right, I'm gonna move on. Okay, so this is a fun one. So routes 4 and 14 are routes that they each go in opposite circles, up and down Milton, over by Walmart on Beulah, by Coconino Community College, so on Lone Tree, and then across Butler. So they go in opposite circles. As you all, I'm sure know, the city has just constructed a lovely new roundabout on University. And if you've been on it, there are some beautiful bus stops there and some beautiful bus only lanes, which are currently not being used, because that is not where these routes go right now. So, it would be a shame if they just sat empty. So we are proposing that we reroute routes 4 and 14 to use that roundabout and to set up 2 new stops, which were built as part of that process, and then connect back to the route on Beulah. The next stops would be down there by the Olive Garden and the Walmart. It would necessitate the closing of 2 stops, which are on Milton. That stop 15 you see is right by that mobile gas station, and the stop 4 is in the turn lane as you're heading south on Milton, about to turn onto Forest Meadows. They are not very well used stops. We actually had our staff go out and do some research a couple of days of the week to talk to riders who were at those stops to see kind of where they were coming and going, to see if the new stops would work for them. And for the most part, we found that they would. A lot of the riders who are using those stops are accessing the hotels in that Beulah corridor. There's a lot of where it says La Quinta Inn and Suites, there's actually a lot of several hotels in that area. So that's where a lot of the ridership is coming from. So we would just propose rerouting those routes to use the new roundabout. And of course, anytime that you can get off of Milton and onto a different road, you are hopefully saving some time and being out of traffic a little bit. Any questions on that one? Okay, thank you. This one is directly related to Proposition 488. So Route 5 is our route that starts at the Downtown Connection Center, goes by the hospital, does a loop kind of around Thorpe, goes by Clark Homes, and then heads out 180 to Cheshire and back the same way. And this is our least frequent route. So it comes once an hour, every 60 minutes. And we all talked about frequency with this group before. Imagine if you had a gate at the end of your driveway that only opened once an hour. That's how inconvenient this bus service is. So one of the first things we wanted to do is bring Route 5 up to be compatible with the rest of our routes. So we are proposing that it would go to 30-minute service. So we'd have 2 buses running that route on weekdays, excuse me. On weekdays during peak times, it would be 30-minute service on Route 5 to be consistent. At least with the, it still would be 30 minutes is still the least frequent we have in our system, but it would be consistent with other routes. So that's an exciting one to come out of Proposition 488, especially if you live in the in that corridor. It will be very exciting for those. And it helps with connections as well. That bus connects at the hospital to Route 2 that I just showed you. And when the bus only comes once an hour, it's a very difficult connection to make. Questions? This is a really minor one. So as you know, I think you probably know, the city is going to construct a roundabout this summer at 4th and Cedar. And Mountain Line will have to do some rerouting around that for the construction. But one thing that's going to come out of it is that we have that stop 16 you see in black is going to be kind of directly as you're coming out of that, making a right-hand turn out of that roundabout where you're gaining speed at that point coming out of the roundabout. And our team has determined that our existing stop 16, which is kind of right in front of the Pine Forest, now Pine Forest used to be the Catholic Church, is too close to that intersection. And people are going to be gaining speed and then coming up on a stop bus, which is a bad combination. So we are proposing to move that stop a little bit south to right around Dorotha. And it's also closer to that crosswalk, the existing crosswalk that serves North Country Healthcare, the libraries, the CCC campus there. So it's more aligned with that crosswalk. I do have to say that long-term Metro Plan, Mountain Line, a lot of us are looking at this the whole 4th Street corridor related to a bunch of different things, all the schools in that area and safety and things like that. And I think we definitely see future changes to how we serve 4th Street. So we're just making this one minor change right now, but I do see additional changes coming in the future, how we can better serve the 4th Street, the whole 4th Street corridor. Question on that one? All right, this is the most exciting one. This is also Proposition 488. This is new service. This is a lot of small print, so I apologize. Okay, so Route 8 is a really short route right now. It starts at Downtown Connection Center. It goes out West Route 66, does a loop around by the old Daily Sun building, the National Park building, Forest Service is right there, and then heads back towards the West Route 66 towards downtown. We've always intended on going out to Woody Mountain Road out there. It's been a line on a map almost as long as I have been here. And it's always been our intention to do that. And we finally have the funding to make it happen, which is very exciting. So the proposal here is that route would continue on West Route 66, stopping along the way and then going out to Woody Mountain Road, stopping to get the people in that area, in the Presidio neighborhood area, using that roundabout and heading back out. A couple of things about this. These stops are all proposed. ADOT has given us head nods, but we need to get final approval from ADOT on locations. West Route 66 is an ADOT road, not a City of Flagstaff road. And these stops are, so I think probably many of you know that Metro Plan is and the city are engaged in a West Route 66 study right now. West Route 66 is not the greatest. There's not sidewalks, there's not crosswalks. The high speeds, there's a lot of things. So there are plans, people are working on what it should look like in the future. So we don't want to go and make big investments here is what is the thing. We don't want to go spend a lot of money pouring concrete, putting shelters in, things will have to be torn out when that road is hopefully improved in the future. That's not a good use of funds. So I'm saying all this to caution that what you're going to see on West Route 66 is, it's not going to be beautiful mountain line shelters and stops. And that's the reason why is it's just not a good investment when we know that that road is going to be improved and things will be torn out. We also know that, you know, it is a high-speed road. It's a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, and I don't think anyone's actually going 45. And so we will definitely be encouraging people. So for instance, if you live in Railroad Springs and want to take the bus towards downtown, which is probably what you want to do unless you're like visiting a friend at Presidio, we would encourage people to get on the bus on their side of the road and ride it around. It maybe adds 4 minutes to their journey, if that, as opposed to running across West Route 66. That doesn't seem like a great idea. So that's in all of our messaging, all of it that we do, we will encourage people to use those safety precautions and ride around as opposed to running across.
So speaking of that, would it make better sense then to stagger the stops, you know, because that's gonna, like on Railroad Springs, they'll just maybe run across the road because it's straight across from that?
We're trying to get the stops closest to where people are, because there are some pretty big gaps in West Route 66 where there is not a lot of residences and people. So we are trying to find that balance, and also where there is shoulder for us to drive on and to get, to get to and things like that. So we can certainly take a look at it, but we are a little bit hamstrung by some of the existing conditions and not wanting to spend we are gonna have to pour a little bit of asphalt in some areas just to give a safe landing area, but trying to keep it as minimal as possible. So let's see, what else? We will continue working with Metro Plan, on getting permanent infrastructure for these bus stops and getting, obviously trying to work on safety, being the #1 priority so that people can safely access bus stops on either side of the road. And then the long-term plan, longer with this, as I think, you probably all know, the development in this area is going past Woody Mountain Road. There's Habitat for Humanity. There's other developments going past there, and this map doesn't show it, but eventually, that's why there's only one stop on one side of the road on Woody Mountain Road, because eventually we will keep going and circle around. And I do not remember the name of the roads out there, but we will make a bigger circle so we get closer to those Habitat homes and we get closer to the other housing before coming back to West Route 66. So that's the long-term plan as we build this route out.
But you're not gonna cross the freeway and go south, you're just gonna turn and go in, loop back around on Route 66.
Correct. So we would serve, to the best of our ability, serve that, and they all have different names. I don't even know what the names are anymore, but all of those West Route 66 developments that are out there, to the best of our ability, would serve those. So yes. So that is our service changes in a nutshell. It's quite a bit, and very excited especially to deliver on Route 8 because it has been talked about for a very long time. So with that, other things that we'll be doing, we're obviously hopefully opening the public comment period today. We will issue a press release. We'll do bus stop signage, show signage at our bus stops and on our buses. We will do a mailer to those in areas impacted by this, that will give information about how to provide public comments and also do social media posts as well. So we will come back to you at the April meeting with a recap of the comments that we have received and a recommendation on whether to move forward with these proposed service changes or alter something based on the public feedback that we have received. So I'm happy to answer any other questions you have, and then we'll turn it back over to the board to conduct a public hearing. Conduct a public hearing and open the public comment period. That's the verbiage.
Are there any questions by board members?
The only thing I would add is if you want to post some of those notifications in these route on campus, like, with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely.
All right, any other questions? Comments? All right, well, Thank you for the presentation. Is there a motion to approve this item?
I move that we conduct a public hearing and open a public comment period through April 16th, 2025 for the proposed August 2025 service announcements.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by member Sweet and a second by member Matthews. Is there any discussion? All right, well, in that case, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. And any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. All right, next up is the amended and restated master intergovernmental agreement. And I'll hand that over to Ms. Jackie.
Thank you very much. Normally it's a Heather show, it's the Jackie show today. Okay, so this is, we've been talking about this for a while, our amended intergovernmental agreement that we have with all of your organizations. So we have made we are proposing some changes to the master IGA, which all of our organizations are part of. And you were all sent a copy where you could see the proposed changes. But I just wanted to highlight a couple, and then I'm gonna actually, Scott Holcomb, our attorney, is going to hop on here in just a minute and offer a little more guidance on some things. So one thing to note is that Mountain Line wasn't a party on the original IGA because it's what created Mountain Line. So that's the one in bold there. We're being added as a party to this one. It's also just cleaning up a lot of things and, making sure that, recognizing CCC, things along those lines, modernizing and making sure that it reflects the way that we do business today. One thing that this area in bold here, the insurance indemnification, that was actually an amendment that was passed as a result of market changes where the board approved moving our insurance liability from $30 million to $20 million. So it's just capturing that now in this master IGA. Once again, modernizing things like removing fax numbers, fun stuff like that. But one of the more substantive, and it's all pretty minor changes, and this one isn't a major change, but we just did want to talk about it in a little bit more detail, is this adding language to capture our rights as property owners. And this is really directly related to the ongoing conversation we've been having about the vacant parcel of land that Mountain Line owns. So before I turn it over to Scott, I just wanted to talk a little bit about so RJA, the company that you heard from, that we've engaged in this process, they've been doing some sounding conversations with the development community about this, just to get like, would you even be interested in this? What would you be most interested in? So there has been substantial interest in partnering on a workforce housing project, especially among those developers who have experience in other, what we'll call like rural resort towns. So there has been some really good interest. And these developers have also expressed the need to have a close partnership and be in lockstep with the city as we would move forward in any potential partnership to develop this land. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott for just a minute to talk a little bit more about this one. Scott, you're muted.
Yep, sorry about that. I was talking, I was on the wrong screen. Yeah, couple things I wanted to mention. We made this amended and restated so that everything's all in one place. And the portion of this that relates to the going out for the RFP for the workforce housing is in this section 2. And I wanted to highlight. Before it just, the IGA just noted that NAPTA was a corporate body and a political subdivision with all the rights and immunities of a municipal corporation. But we thought that it was important to spell out, in particular, the issues related to property being free from taxation and the right to own, lease, operate real property and real property interests, including without limitation. The transit maintenance and storage facilities that you already have, the administrative offices that you already have, transportation, transit-oriented or workforce housing purposes. And while we wouldn't have to set it out in that detail, we wanted to be very transparent in what was being recognized here in the IGA. both for as you present this to, or this is presented to your various partner agencies that make up or created Mountain Line, but also to the public. And we thought this was also important to be able to show to, as part of the RFP that goes out, the support that we not only have from the board specifically for this type of activity, but also from all of our partner agencies. And so that's really what we're looking at here. This is really the first step in going through and getting the approval from each of your separate government entities, from NAU, the Coconino County College, Flag, and the city of Flagstaff, that shows that the support that is there, and most in particular the support from the city is important, because when you take this out to the development community, they're going to know what kind of cooperation they're going to have with the city, and showing that partnership with the city in making sure that this project is going forward successful will make the RFP much more attractive to any developers that would be interested in doing this. And it's going to be important to Mountain Line in any sense. It's going to be important in moving forward. So the first step, we thought the most effective way to do this is to have this board approve these changes in this IGA, and then take it to each one of your constituent entities to approve it, because it is an IGA, an intergovernmental agreement, and that would make sure that we've got clear support for the project going forward.
Sure, I have a question.
Yes.
Scott, this is Councilmember Matthews. Two questions. And I feel like I'm an engineer right now because I used to experience this in my banking career. But on the sentence that says, including immunity of its property from taxation, is immunity it just seems like it should be exempt. I know with my nonprofit that I had to actually sign a declaration every year and have it approved. It wasn't a given. I had to request it every year. I had to turn it in. The county had to approve it. And if I missed that request, then I would have been taxed even though I was a nonprofit. So I'm a little stuck on immunity because it's not a given.
No, that's a very good question. It's a fair question. That is actually the exact language out of the Arizona Constitution.
Okay.
Then that is actually a specific statement of the part above of with all the rights and immunities of municipal corporations that are granted by the Constitution. So, and that's one of them is the immunity. That's where we're fitting it. We're fitting it into the language of the Constitution as it relates to municipal corporations, such as NAPTA, Mountain Line.
Okay. And then just for clarification, you said something about us bringing it back to our organizations that are in this agreement. I'm assuming, because it would have to go to city council, that Heather would be on the agenda and bring it. We wouldn't be doing that as board members.
Yeah, I misspoke. Yes, Mountain Line would have to bring this forward, and actually your staff. So after we go through this vote and get the approval from the board to go forward, then we would present this to probably through the city manager, and to the Board of Regents and to the County Board of Supervisors, the board for the community college, and all of them would have to take action again, because this is like any other IGA where you're doing, it's an intergovernmental agreement to do specific purposes. And Mountain Line's sort of unique in that regard. It was created by an IGA because at the time Mountain Line was created, it was in 2 counties. And because it was in 2 counties, it required both counties to agree to form it. That now that it's been formed by an IGA, we're continuing that, and we think again this is a good vehicle for putting it in front of all the constituent agencies that are involved. So no, it would go in front of your councils, the boards, the same as any other IGA would. But it'll have already been approved by this board. The other part of that too is that the recommendation is that not only you approve this, but you give the general manager and CEO of Mountain Line, Heather, and myself the authority to negotiate and finalize it in case there are any technical changes that come out of that process. Not substantive changes, but I can say this as an attorney. When you put these in the hands of the attorney, sometimes they screw around with the language. And we don't want this to be caught up because there's changing in the language, but not changing in the purpose or the substance.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? In that case, can I get a motion to approve this item?
Chair, I move to approve the amended and restated master intergovernmental agreement as presented.
We have a motion.
Mr. Chair, also, it's important to make sure that we're getting specific approval for the last sentence of that. The board authorized the Mountain Line CEO and general manager and legal counsel negotiate, finalize, and sign the IGA agreement in conjunction with the partner agencies.
Yes, all right. Chair, I move that we approve the amended and restated master intergovernmental agreement, including the board, including authorization for Mountain Line CEO and general manager and legal counsel to negotiate, finalize, and sign the IGA agreement in conjunction with the partners agencies.
Thank you. We have a motion by member Matthews. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by member Mayor. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, in that case, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Next up, it looks like organization structure review has been requested to be tabled today.
Yes, so I believe we have requested to table this item and then there's another item, the compensation study, which both items are still being finalized and did not feel that they were in a place yet to give you substantive information, so want to come back with those. Josh is going to do a presentation about our workforce budget, which does make some presumptions about these two things based on the information we have right now. But we will come back to you with them.
Okay, unless there's any requests not to table, we will be moving on from items 12 and 13 and going to item 14, which is FY 26 workforce budget. Mr. Josh Stone, if you could please present this item. Or busy columns. No, wrong. Josh Stone.
Sorry, sorry, I thought I had a couple more minutes. I forgot we were tabling those. Okay. Morning, everyone. So today we're going to start looking at the budget we've developed for the upcoming fiscal year 2026. This is the our start of sort of an education effort that will be completed as a series over the next several months. Where we break down the budget into categories and review any proposed or required changes. It should hopefully be somewhat more digestible this way, instead of spending an entire meeting as a budget review. So we won't ask for action at this time, but we'll welcome any feedback as we finalize the budget. Action to adopt the proposed budget will need to occur all the way at the end of the series, but at the end of the fiscal year in June. So with that, we'll move into the workforce component of the budget. Obviously, supporting our staff is the largest and perhaps most important piece of our operating budget. The workforce budget is actually 80% of our total operating budget. So we'll jump right in with the top line. We're proposing a total workforce budget for the fiscal year 2026 of $9.6 million, which is a 13% increase over FY25. The largest element of this increase is a change made after the adoption of the current year's budget to sort of reposition the competitiveness of our operations staff pay ranges with a $5 an hour increase for all operations positions. I think the plan is to have a more formal presentation on the success of this change in the future. I don't know exactly when that is scheduled to occur, but so far I would say that staff turnover has greatly stabilized. We were able to return the entire system to full service in the fall. And the average amount of overtime per bus driver has leveled off significantly and is decreasing as the year goes on. So we also in the last year made a policy update to change overtime from the federal labor requirement of 1.5 times base pay to 2 times base pay. So those the bulk of the increase over the last year are 2 things that were not actually in the FY25 budget. So they're part of that. I'm going to move to the next slide, please. This chart is basically the entirety of the workforce budget. So we're starting with baseline as the FY25 base salaries and benefits, which is about $8.5 million. You can see the largest part of the increase on the FY26 side is the red there. About, as I said, about $700,000 to reposition the operations team. The green sliver is a placeholder of around $90,000 to for adjustments related to our compensation study. With the movement of the operations staff, we anticipate there'll be compression against various middle and management roles. So there's an opportunity to reposition those to allow appropriate spacing through the various pay grades. We're going to skip the little purple sliver for right now. That's an increase in benefits. We'll talk about that in a moment. The very top segment is a little bit over 200,000 and is pay plan for all employees. We have aligned our annual increase for a majority of employees to be effective July 1st. We actually did that this fiscal year, 25. So that'll be continuing in 26. It's easiest to administer that way if everyone gets their increase at the same time. And there will be also merit-based increases occurring that occur quarterly throughout the year. We are also included in that is actually a small increase, readjusting our staffing a little bit based on the org structure review that we skipped over, but that'll be discussed at a future time. So some positions will be kind of modified slightly, and we'll have, I think, 2 additional FTEs. This will help with the expansion of routes and increased frequency of routes, and then minor staffing adjustments related to the move of the administrative and customer service operations to the Downtown Connection Center next year. You can move to the next slide, which is the little purple sliver there. Our insurance benefits, we're budgeting for a change of about $100,000 across all benefits. Mountain Line is a participant in NAPEP, the Northern Arizona Public Employee Benefits Trust, that pools resources. So our benefits are the same as the city and the county and some other public employers. Each employer sets their own subsidy contributions to premiums based on their own budget capacity, but the benefits offered are all the same. This year, vision and dental are seeing minor changes. And some of those are due to a change in the number of plans being offered to employees. So it kind of actually depends on what people actually choose to enroll in. I don't believe those benefits have had any increase the last several years. And both of those are also relatively low cost. Like vision is, around 80 cents per employee per month. It's very minimal for a base plan. Mountain Line does pay 100% of the premium for employees with enrolled in a single person base plan for vision, dental, and health insurance. Employees can choose coverage for a partner or additional family members at some cost subsidy, and then the rest would, be the employee cost. The NAPEP board this year has quite a healthy reserve, so I think as a strong reserve balance, so they're able to absorb some of the market increase that is that would have been projected. I think the average, the overall health insurance market is projected to be an increase of at least 8 to 10%. The NAPEP board is using some of the reserve balance to buy down our increase to an average 1.5% increase for medical premiums. Something I did not mention here is Arizona State Retirement System. Mountain Line employees are public employees, and with the exception of like 2 or 3 employees with a very low number of hours worked, are required to enroll in ASRS. The state sets contribution rates for each fiscal year. They do fluctuate a bit each year. FY26 has been set for a contribution of 12%, paid by both the employer and the employee. 12% is about a quarter of a percentage point below the fiscal year 2025 rate. That's a slight decrease. That decrease will basically be absorbed by increases due to increased pay. So the overall amount being paid will not change substantially. We do have an array of other benefits that are part of the expenditures of the workforce budget. many of those are summarized in your staff report, so I won't dig into those too much. I'd say the most costly of those is that we do observe 13 holidays. We offer a variety of types of paid time off, which are earned by team members over time and, scaled with your length of service. So that is my brief overview of the budget. I don't really have anything else. If you move to the next slide, that's, I think, all.
Right, are there any questions by board members? No? All right, well, thank you for the presentation. There is nothing to vote on, so we'll move on to the next item. Thank you. Next up, we could have Busy Collins present about zero emissions by bus transition plan update.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the board. Next slide, please, Rhonda. I'm here to talk about the zero emission bus transition plan. I'm going to refer to it as ZEB plan for short. So we completed our first ZEB plan in 2020 with board approval. At that time, we evaluated fuel cell and battery electric buses. And under the battery electric option, we compared different charging techniques. So you could charge it only at the depot, and then the buses live on a single charge throughout the day. Or there's on-route charging where the buses get charged up throughout the day. So two different ways to do it. And what made the most sense for Mountain Line in our climate, in our topography, was battery electric buses with on-route charging. It had the lowest incremental costs and it had the highest emission savings among the options. And the on-route charging was identified at the Downtown Connection Center because all of the routes go there. And at the end of the day, we would top off all of the buses charge at Caspar Depot. So we have charging infrastructure at mainly Downtown Connection Center and at the depot as outlined in 2020. And since then, we've had plenty of changes, many assumptions of the Downtown Connection site, or rather we made assumptions before engineering came in, and now we know so much more about constraints. So our space, weight, time constraints in relation to the Rio de Flag flood mitigation project, and also how many chargers that we can accommodate on top of that Rio de Flag once it's fully buried and mitigated. We originally thought we could accommodate 8 chargers. It looks like we can have about 2 chargers realistically at the Downtown Connection Center. So that's a huge change. Technology has improved, every year, and you'll see in this plan that they're projecting bus battery capacity increases. And we have seen that just in the handful of years since our plan was adopted. Timelines have changed on our facility and fleet projects. And new since we started this ZEB plan update is Prop 48. So exciting. However, we are not including that in our ZEB plan update because it wasn't a reality when we started this project. The good news is the immediate improvements that we're identifying are mostly frequency, like the Route 5 frequency that Jackie presented. It's the same. We know all of the information about that route. We're just adding another bus. So luckily we already have a lot of information to build on. So that's great for the Prop 488 improvements. Next slide, please, Rhonda. And so we're doing this update with us. So we got a Clean Bus Planning Award. It was awarded through the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation. It's free. There's no local match required. Pretty fantastic. And our contract got pushed to Center for Transportation and the Environment. They're actually the ones that are completing the ZEB plan update for us under the Joint Office of Energy and Transportation. And CTE was the same vendor that completed our first ZEB plan. So that's great to work with them again. And here's our timeline. We do anticipate having this all buttoned up in 6 months. We started in November. With an internal kickoff and have been progressing through. We're now in final recommendations in February. And we do plan to bring this back to the board for adoption in May, tentatively. We're on track right now, but that could change if there's any delays. And speaking of delays, we were very concerned about all of the federal executive orders that came out. We do feel optimistic that this project will not be impacted by those EOs. That's a huge relief, so we should have a final product for real in May. Next slide, please, Rhonda. And we thought it was really important to include managers from all divisions of Mountain Line, as well as frontline staff who work directly with electric buses and the chargers. We also extended the invitation to APS, Arizona Public Service, to listen and ask questions and support the plan with utility information. They have attended the first 3 meetings. We really appreciate the partnership, and it's really key in our transition to battery electric buses. But again, they're really just listening, helping inform. We're making the decisions on what makes sense for Mountain Line. Next slide, please. So our scope of work, again, I mentioned Prop 488 is not part of this ZEB plan update. We do plan to do another ZEB plan update in 2 years. That is about industry best practice. So we will absolutely get there with the rest of our Prop 488 improvements. Also excluded from the scope of work is fuel cell electric buses, simply because there have not been any changes since the 2020 ZEB plan to impact its costs and emissions. And what the 2020 ZEB plan said about fuel cell buses is that it had higher emissions and higher costs than any of the battery electric options. The closest fuel cell areas that we would put our batteries onto a semi-truck, and then the semi-truck drives it to Flagstaff from Las Vegas. So you can see like, oh, that's why the emissions are so high. So it just didn't make sense for our area. Those conditions could change. So we are absolutely open to looking at that in the future and maybe having a mixed fleet situation. But again, like we're really looking at that battery electric on-route charging, and not fuel cell. So just want to give some background there. And then here's tasks to get through the scope of work. Basically, we're just trying to get a clear picture of why, when, where, and how much it's going to cost so we can integrate into our financial plan, our capital improvement plan, and annual budget. Next slide, please, Rhonda. And here's the ZEB plan sections to be updated. Again, just getting that clarity with all of the updates that have changed on our end. Next slide, please. And so I wanted to share some preliminary results. I don't expect you to understand these charts, but I love data. I think this stuff is pretty fascinating. So what we're seeing here is block feasibility projection. So a block is what one bus does in one day. So you can see like the 502 is the first couple on the left-hand side. And that is our FALA supplemental service on Route 5 that helps with the FALA students. 401 is the first bus that is on Route 4. So that's our blocks. And you can see here that we're identifying how much energy it's going to take to complete that whole block in one charge. And basically what we learned from that is that even with bus battery capacity increasing over the years, we still cannot do most blocks in a single charge. And so to mitigate that, we could either swap an electric bus out for a fully charged bus midday. That would be more like the depot only charging strategy, or the on-route charging strategy, charging throughout the day. Next slide, please. And here you can see that depot only option. So we're saying that as our diesel hybrid buses are decreasing as their useful life comes up, we are replacing them with electric buses. And this is just to show you what it would look like and why we are not choosing depot only. So the outcome of this is saying that if we were to only charge at Caspar headquarters, we would need an additional 15 buses to complete all of our service blocks. So, 15 buses, that's a lot of money, plus maintenance, all of that, plus storage. So this option is much higher, as you'll see in it costs a lot more, as you'll see in a later slide. And I want to compare quickly, next slide, please, Rhonda, to depot and on-route charging. And so here we are keeping our fleet at the same number, 30 buses, throughout the full transition to electric vehicles. You can see the green boxes are our depot charge. So we have a plan. Okay, these buses are depot charging. This is when we need to have those come online over time. And then we have our on-route charge in blue, and you can see the numbers. So it's just really helpful for Mountain Line staff to, okay, this year we need 6 buses, right? And that's what's on order. And next year we're going to need 9. So just really helpful to have that outline. next slide, please. And this is the on-route charges, the path that makes the most sense for us again, in our plan update. And here's why: cumulative comparison. So, each of the blue tones is a different scenario. So the darkest blue is our baseline. What we're currently spending today, about 38 million, cumulatively. So that's, maintenance, that is, fuel, either it's diesel or it's electricity to charge the bus. That is the bus replacement, capital cost. So there's just so many costs bundled in here. And you can see scenario 1, the depot only plug-in, the incremental over baseline is 48 million. Scenario 2, the on-route charging option, 22.7 million. So lowest incremental cost again, with scenario 2, that on-route charging option. So again, that's why it makes sense for us. Next slide, please, Rhonda. Nice. And so that is just the tip of the iceberg. That's, what we have today to show you. We're continuing to work through those final recommendations. The fuel assessment will get emissions update, how much of our emissions we plan on saving over the course of the full transition to electric buses. So just so much more information coming. We're going to have that draft ZEB plan in March, and then ideally bringing the final ZEB plan back to the board in May. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Busy, this is Councilmember Matthews. How much was the Clean Bus Planning Award, the dollar amount?
Give us a dollar amount. I asked for that for our records, to say, hey, yeah, this is great. They would not provide that, sadly. So they're just doing all of the work for whatever that lump sum is.
Okay, so they're doing it almost like in kind. It's like they're not giving us they're not giving us money. They're just doing the work.
Exactly.
Are there any other questions? All right, in that case, thank you for the presentation. There's no recommendation from staff. Is there any recommendation for direction from the board at this time? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, progress reports. Are there any questions about any of the progress reports, or any members wish to add in the topics to a future agenda? And then if no comments from board members, I'll pass it over to Ms. Jackie again to share current events.
If we have time, I'll go through just a few of the current events that Heather prepared. Our favorite current event, the Downtown Connection Center. Things are plugging along there and making incredible progress every day. So all of the solar has been installed. So that is was grant funded solar panels. So on every roof service basically at this point, we do have solar panels. And then some of the interior spaces are starting to take shape and have actual, the more permanent furnishings are in there. So this is our upstairs break room for employees. This is also upstairs, and this is a hallway that connects the 2 sides of the building upstairs. You can see a lot of the accent walls have been painted with our mountain line colors, which is kind of gives it a fun, bright pop of color. And then, sorry, I apologize, I looked through these beforehand. So more of the upstairs space that you can see being, it's like doorways and stuff like that. Very exciting. The holes in the top of the wall there are where the solar tubes will come down. So to bring in natural light from outside through down into the bottom of the building. So this is an open area that goes from the 1st floor down to the 2nd floor. This is where the front entrance, and I think you'll recall that we opted to do, I believe it's called a gradually sloping sidewalk, I believe is the correct, instead of a ramp. And so there are, instead of a grand staircase being the main feature, it's sort of like the new library. When the renovations were done to the library, this will be the main entrance will be this ramp. There are staircases smaller staircases on either side that our guests can use as well. And then the glass that is going to be installed there will actually be the first phase of the public art process part of this with, through the, Beautification of Public Arts Commission. There's a couple of projects that are on this site, but the first one will be that, the glass that will be installed is actually a public art project. Some of these, I'm not sure why we chose the more interior ones. Apologies, I did not look through these. Okay. Just focusing quickly on ridership. Ridership has been doing very well. We're very excited to, seeing great recovery this year, as we're back to full service and have 5 buses running on Route 10, and we're seeing the much larger ridership recovery. I apologize. One thing I did overlook is going back to the Downtown Connection Center. We are still looking at, so dates are shifting a little bit. We did just learn that the chilled beam infrastructure is delayed, and not due to anything on the contractor's part, due to the parts for the manufacturer. So we are now looking at a June move-in. We were looking at a mid-May move-in. And so we are now looking at a June move-in, as I think we probably want air conditioning in this building when we move in. So, that has unfortunately been delayed a little bit, but things are really moving along, and our team is really in the throes of planning for the move, planning for how our processes will have to change as we are operating 2 buildings and as we have customer service downtown for the first time and things along those lines. So we're really doing a lot of the behind the scenes work right now to prepare ourselves for that move, whenever it might be. Okay. I'm gonna skip over couple of these things. We did install some new barrier doors for our drivers. So if during COVID, one of our mechanics actually designed a barrier door that was installed on all of our buses to, you know, serve the dual purpose during COVID. It was obviously keeping our drivers safe from the spread of, you know, germs and things like that, but also safety measures as well. And then over time, those doors have, you know, that he did an incredible job taking a concept and developing it and installing it. But over time, those have worn out and have become a little bit dangerous and pinching some fingers and things like that. So we actually went with a solution. You know, now a lot of the bus manufacturers have developed their own solutions as it's become a more necessary thing. And our drivers are really liking these. They have the option to open their window if they would like to you know, to speak. There's a fan installed in the door. So we've received really good feedback, and those I believe are installed on almost all of our buses at this point. Just a couple of other anniversaries, the aforementioned mechanic who designed those doors, Andrew, or Ace as he goes by, Everett, is celebrating 16 years, and he really is the backbone of our mechanic and fleet team. Marvin Chi is a transit operator who's been here for 12 years, and then Lisa Connor, our eligibility specialist who works with a lot of our paratransit clients, is celebrating a 6-year anniversary. One other thing that Heather did want me to make sure to mention, we will send more information about this, is the Arizona Transit Association Conference is going to be in Flagstaff from April 14th through 18th. It will be at the Drury in the conference center. And we would love to invite our board members to attend the conference, to attend sessions, to come network. So there'll be our transit industry peers from around the state will be here. And then simply I'll have presentations and things like that. It's always an honor to host it in Flagstaff. So we're excited to welcome them up here. And I believe that is it for current events.
Thank you. Are there any questions at this time? No, all right. Do any board members have any future agenda items they'd like to add to the board, to the agenda for the next meeting? No? All right, the next meeting will be March 19th at 10 o'clock.
That is my birthday. I just want to point out that we will have cake next week.
All right. Do we get to sing too? Embarrass you, huh? Online?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good to know.
All right, well, in that case, let's see, the next board meeting will be on the 19th. It'll be hybrid and Zoom in the Vera room here at 10 a.m. Public is invited. March agenda items may include, but are not limited to vulnerable roadway users, plan presentation, financial audit, operating budget overview, biannual performance report, electric bus performance report, bus route driver barriers update, free reduced fare update, triennial review closeout report, DCC move-in update, bus simulator and delegation of authority updates. The March agenda will be available for review on Mountain Lions website and Mountain Lions public posting places at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. So are there any questions or comments?
Yes, may I just mention that we'll be moving the two items that were tabled into the next
So
agenda.
those will be added to the next agenda as well. Okay, and those two items were, let's see. The organizational structure review and compensation study. All right, any questions or comments at this time? In that case, the meeting is adjourned at 11:15. Thank you, everyone.